Check, check. Check, check. Is that working? Check, check.
Oh,
check,
I think
check.
I got it.
Is that working? Check, check.
Oh,
check,
I think
check.
I got it.
Is that working? Check, check.
Oh,
check,
I think
check.
I got it.
Is that working? Check, check.
Oh,
check.
You can hear me. Okay. Can you try messaging on Twitch?
Check, check. Check, check. Is that working? Check, check.
Oh,
check,
I think
check.
I got it.
Is that working? Check, check.
Check. Okay. I think it's picking up my desktop. Wow. Okay, nice. The only thing I'm unsure about is if let me maybe play some music or something. I just want to make sure it's not going to give some sort of echo or something. My audio devices. Check, check, testing, testing. Does everything sound okay with the audio? It looks like people are watching. Just so you guys know, we're just trying to do a test stream because we're doing a critique stream later at like 3 p.m. Central Time, so I'm just trying to make sure all my settings sound alright. If there's other people in the chat too, please let me know if everything sounds okay. And I will do a little bit of a study too for anyone that's just like randomly watching right now. Just haven't streamed in quite a while, so yeah, I want to make sure it's good to go when we're doing critiques later. Sounds somewhere between them. YouTube is. YouTube comes out with stuff. World. Just. chat there. I see it on OBS. Everything seems to be working. That's awesome. Okay, cool. Okay. I am just gonna do a little bit of a study. I found this image on Pinterest. This figure looks pretty cool to paint, so thought this would be a good one to do. Just kind of get warmed up for later when I'm going to be working on your guys' stuff. So kind of like to first just establish like a background palette. It's a little bit like purpley and blue. And if anyone is randomly watching, don't be afraid to message in the chat, ask any questions you have about my process or whatever. I like to knock in the background first because, or at least some colors in the background, because it will reinforce the colors that I'm then painting on the figure. And I forgot it does this. It pops up the stream in the Discord chat. Yeah, for anyone that is also randomly joining and wants to participate in our critique stream later on, hop in our Discord at discord.gg/artbros. And just give me 1 sec. I gotta do something really quick. Let's get into this. With studies, I like to just kind of keep it loose. Because with something like this, I'm focusing more on rendering materials and just trying to capture the overall like look and pose of this figure. So this is not how I would, approach client work most likely, unless I'm just doing like a thumbnail or something, but kind of just trying to have fun with this at this point. Oh, Rio's here. What's up, man? Thanks for hopping in. Just doing a little test stream to make sure everything's good for later. Oops. Big eraser. I really like the blues in her outfit. I like that this is like a very kind of almost monochromatic image, and then you have her head and her skin that's popping out as the warmth makes for kind of an interesting palette. And I like doing studies like this where I can kind of learn something from the way the photograph or the composition is set up, and then I could then apply this to a personal piece and be like, oh, maybe I'll do like an original illustration of a character that's mostly blue, and the background's blue, and it's cool lighting, but then their skin is kind of the thing that really pops. So. Crazy Round Show. Amazing. I brought the art class on Improvement RPG a couple years ago, and it helped me a lot. Now I work illustrating board games, so thanks. Wow, that's awesome to hear. That's so cool. If you're in the Discord, definitely share some of your work if you can. I'd love to see what you got to work on. That's sick. All right, start laying in some color. And maybe we'll do multiply for this, just so that I have a darker kind of line layer on top. I'm trying to see. It's almost like a greenish, more towards green instead of purple for a tunic. And at this point, I could use like a brush with color dynamics to just get a little variation in color, but I'm just kind of messing around with some flat colors, like local colors that I'm seeing. So I'm seeing some like hints of green, some hints of blue, some dark blue. I'm not quite worrying about like shadow yet or light. I'm just focusing on like variation in color. For sure will do. Awesome. This is also interesting because I tend to not go super. I'm trying to find this blue, man. I tend to not go like super duper saturated with my colors, and there are some really saturated colors in this image. So it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for me to figure out. It's also weird because we all are looking at her hair and thinking it's brown, but I think especially because of the environment colors and just you know, some of the stuff that's going on with the camera, I'm seeing blues in her hair. So it's kind of like when I see certain colors, I think I need to just make her head a little bit bigger or something. When I see certain colors in an image, I try to just literally add those colors in. It's like if I see a red, I grab red and throw red in. I think that's what makes paintings look a lot more vibrant instead of just being like, oh, this is brown, so I'm going to go brown, 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 brown. So maybe I will add a little bit of warmth into this hair in the spots that I'm seeing it, but I think it's more like blues and grays that are giving the impression of warmth. And her head needs to get warmed up a little bit more. Just kind of, like I said, I'm kind of like just trying to find a palette at this point for these colors. I'm not really concerning myself yet with the lights and shadows and stuff. I'm just looking for colors and big shapes and strong silhouette, because that's what I think is very dynamic about this image. The BroZ are back in town. Yeah, for real. Man, it's been so long since I've done stuff with Art Bro stuff. For anyone that's watching this and doesn't know much about what I've been up to, I just launched my first video game a couple weeks ago called Traveler's Refrain. You can pick it up now on Steam, and it's a 2D hand-painted action RPG, and yeah, that thing took a lot of my time. So we're kind of just focusing on marketing right now and spreading the word for the game. So I thought now is a really great time to get back into, you know, some of the educational stuff that I like doing, streaming, doing critiques, that kind of thing, and doing some more painting myself. I have this past 6 months is probably the least amount of painting I've gotten to do in years, just because I was still doing art, but it was like game art, like 2D game art. It wasn't you know, illustrative work or whatever. So now I'm trying to establish a bit of light and shadow. I'm still staying really loose because, again, it's a study and I can be a little bit sloppy and kind of paint over stuff. I've kind of changed up my way of rendering things over the years, but especially for studies, I found that I can get more mileage with just being more loose and kind of having fun with it, as opposed to being so meticulous. And as long as I'm being careful about my original silhouette and structure, and you know, making sure things are in the right spot, where, like, here's a good example. I think the eyes are a little too low. Like, thinking maybe if I'm like looking, you know, almost 1-to-1, my whole canvas is even just trying to line it up as best I can, so I can like look across and be like, okay, is the chin about on the right plane? Are the eyes about on the right plane? And it not only helps me match it up with my image, but it kind of gets it into my brain of like, okay, if the head is about this big, then the torso should be about this big, and her arms should be about here. I'm kind of just like plotting points for myself in my brain as I'm painting through this stuff. So just want to get some more color information on her face before I start painting on top. let's just go for it. So I definitely know this is more of a cool lighting scenario because you can see more like purples in her skin. So that means that when we are starting with like a warmer local color, we're going to pull more towards purple and blue for the lights, and then for the shadows we're going to go the opposite direction. We're going to pull more towards yellows and greens. And I like to stay as small as I possibly can for as long as I can, so that I'm seeing just the image as a whole, and then eventually I'll zoom in and start getting into like details and stuff. But this is the biggest thing I'm seeing with you know, some of my mentees and younger artists is they zoom in so fast and then they lose that structure. So this is a good opportunity too to start like throwing down some really dark colors for like occlusion shadows. That's what's going to help the pieces that are overlaying feel very solid. And I'm literally just going to paint right into the background as if this was like an oil painting, because this is a study and screw it. I'm trying to get something done fast as opposed to, you know, perfect. And it's a lot more fun when you can be kind of sloppy with your paint too, at least for me. You can kind of, I guess it's not sloppiness, it's like being loose but with intention, right? Trying to look for the big shapes I'm seeing in her hair and just paint this stuff out as I go. Trying to like correct myself as I see mistakes and stuff too. Things like this dagger, I think it's probably a better idea to put this on a separate layer so that I'm not like interfering with this cloth that's underneath. I typically try to keep my layers pretty limited, but for ornamentation like this, I've just noticed it's always a better idea to be a little bit more mindful of how you're setting yourself up so that you're not just like painting around things. It's like super annoying to clean that stuff up. So now I can paint underneath this like perfectly fine. Grab some of our skin color and paint out this hand a little bit. And I think this is a good point to just like merge these layers so that I can erase some stuff out as I need to, or even just paint on top. Let's take a sip of coffee. What's kind of fun about this image as well is there's a lot of dark colors and shadows, so you can make most of the image pretty dark and then just like pop out a lot of these little hits of color. I think this is the other thing too, because like obviously, you know, if you guys have been watching, this started off very, very rough and has looked very, very rough for a little while, but I'm not getting distracted by, you know, any one part in particular. I'm trying to sort of move through the whole painting, and build it up somewhat equally. That way it's like I'm having actual like stages to developing the painting instead of just like, okay, I'm gonna render the face, then I'm gonna render the hair, then I'm gonna do this, then I'm gonna do that. This helps me make sure that my lighting is kind of on point all around, my color palette as a whole is correct as well. And that way I'm not getting like, you know, too far in and then I'm like, oh my god, everything's really washed out, or I don't know, too saturated, or the proportions aren't right, or whatever. I also had a call with a mentee recently, and we were talking about like rendering and like brush efficiency, so like not using too many brush strokes and stuff like that. And some artists are really, really good about just using a limited amount of brush strokes to make shapes, but I think especially a lot of these like old masters, or like, you know, I guess it's not that old, but like a painter like Sargent, I still think he kind of built up his painting, and then it's kind of like at the very end you give this effect as if you only did things in a couple brush strokes, but what you were doing is sort of, you know, painting along the shape the whole time. So like with this arm, you know, I'm trying to make sure that my brush strokes are going around these folds and, you know, down this way. I'm not like painting haphazardly, like an angle like this and then an angle like that. I'm trying to really follow the form as I render things. And I think that leads to that look of like, oh, it looks like you only, like, especially when things are blended out, like it looks like you only used a couple brush strokes to achieve that effect. It's interesting. This is like a shark tooth or something on her belt. Let's see. How do I want to approach all these like circles? And I think I might just go for it. A lot of ornamentation on this belt. I might put this other sword on another layer too. Should probably save. That would probably be good. There we go. Oh, Omarjan. Just trying to say hi, Ping. Hey, thanks so much, man. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Alright, I think it's time to dig into her face a little bit, and this is where I think I should zoom in at least one step. I need to pull the tablet closer to me. There we go. Alright. Let's see. Can I make this like 150? There we go. Trying to really nail down the shape of her eyebrows, the shape of her eyes, this like kind of interesting expression she's got going on. I think there's just this little hints of like purple as well, grayish purple. Also, oh, thanks so much, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, the game release was crazy. We worked on that thing for over 5 years, so you know, we weren't working like fully full time until more towards the very end. So that's partially why it took so long. But yeah, it was definitely a huge labor of love, and I'm really proud of how everything turned out. So, yeah, if anyone is watching and hasn't picked it up yet either, it is on a launch sale still for like the rest of the day, I think. It would mean a lot if you guys got to check it out. All right, let's figure out her nose. It's almost like a soft nose is more difficult because you don't have those really strong points of interest to capitalize on in terms of like shadow or whatever. What's the name of the game again? Traveler's Refrain. Yeah, I guess I should probably say that. Traveler's Refrain. It's looking great already. Thank you. Yeah, as I'm painting, I'm just thinking about all the things I tell my mentees all the time, so I might as well just bring this stuff up as I'm thinking about it. But what I always like to tell them is You know, when you're painting a nose, don't think I'm painting a nose. When you're painting eyes, don't think I'm painting eyes. Just paint the shapes that you're seeing that make up the nose. Like look for the shadows, look for those little hits of color, and just especially when doing a study, paint what you see. Because everyone has a different shaped nose. Everyone has different shaped eyes. So if you kind of get into this rhythm of always, you know, being like, okay, this is what a nose looks like, this is what eyes look like, everything always looks the same, and I feel like you never truly learn how to paint form. So yeah, just think about shapes. Always be thinking about shapes. A little bit of bounce light on the side of her face. I think probably from, I'm sure there's probably some studio lighting going on here, but I'm kind of imagining it's bounce light from the sort of snowy ground. Speaking of that as well, I think I need to like hike up the saturation on this just a little bit. That feels a little bit better. Okay. Oops, painting on the background. Let me save too. Here's where I want to really get her shape of her jaw down. I think overall her cheek needs a little bit of a darker color. Same with over here. Can we submit more than once for the critique stream? Yeah, I don't see why not. Omerjan says, I gotta balance. Good luck with the rest of the stream. Thanks, man. Thanks for hopping in. Yeah, Rio, go for it. So as always with the critique streams, I'm gonna be picking things that I think are gonna be the most helpful educationally for people watching. And I might not get to everyone's work. So just submit whatever you want. You can submit more than one piece. And I always try my best to get to as many as possible, but like sometimes on the monthly challenges we've had like 20 submissions. I'm like, I can't do 20 critiques in a stream. So also, Rio, how's everything going with you, by the way? I haven't talked to you in such a long time. I just been, as you know, just so busy with stuff. What? Google image Balto? What? Try drawing them, please. I'm working on this study right now, so I'll just be doing that. But if you are an artist and are looking to get critique, we're doing a critique stream later today at 3 p.m. Central Time. Flip canvas. Let's see. Oh yeah, I'm seeing something I gotta fix. What is going on? All right, I think that's a good place to stop this because I gotta eat some lunch and stuff. Thank you for anyone that has randomly showed up and hung out for a little bit. But like I said, we will be doing a critique stream at 3 p.m. Central Time on on here. But join us on discord.gg/artbros. I'll type it in the chat. Artbros, if you want to submit your work for critique. So, yep, cool. I'll see you guys later.